my baby's eyes. It's alright, I know what. It's alright not to know. All to see down that road. Take that chance, step to the door, and leave all you know. I know what. It's alright not to know. It's alright. It's alright. It's alright not to know. Sometime in the night, I don't know. Sometime in the night, wonder why. Staring into my baby's eyes, and it's alright. I'm not worried. It's alright. It's alright. Candlelit houses are not always what they seem. They can be cozy and quiet, tame with a dream. The donut is turning. I step into the street. I'm running just to be running. I have nowhere to be. Sometime in the night, I don't know. Sometime in the night, I wonder why. But it's alright. I'm not worried. It's alright. It's alright.
Bill was doing great there till right at the end.
Yeah, just, I think my agent just texted me, so I have to get back to him.
It's gonna take me a while to regain focus.
Yeah, but thank you for having us here. We were just here last year. It was great fun, great crowd. Thanks for coming back. I wanted to point out one thing I want to apologize for. Is last year somebody in the crowd asked the question, if Bobby Petrino has a big year, do you think he'll go to another job? And I said, if he has a big year, he'll be at another job by October. I was off by 2.5 months.
Yeah. But you were on some other things. We made some other picks that weren't that far off. But
I'm going to get to that.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. You've got all those notes over there. I've got nothing. So
Right here.
Your arm.
Last year's picks, how I did and how he did.
Yeah, it is good to be back.
Guess who did better?
I feel like we're ready. On to other subjects that people care. I feel like we're ready to debate up here on these two podiums. I kind of like this. This may be the only debate these people see in a real sense for a long time. So we better do something for them up here.
If we do any debate, it's going to be in the WDRB studios. And if we keep this up, Sports Illustrated is going to report there's a feud going on between you and I.
They might, and they might not be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I did want to say. Last week, I don't know how many of you know who Bob Kravitz is. He's a sports writer up in Indianapolis. Big news in the media business. I was getting calls from different people and different things saying, wow, did you hear the big news? Bob Kravitz is leaving the Indianapolis Star to go work for WTHR TV. I said, really? Bill Lamb and Barry Fulmer at WDRB had that idea 2 years ago. Yeah. Bob Kravitz actually called me. It's been about 7 weeks ago. So I need to talk to you about something. What's that? He goes, well, the NBC affiliate in town is talking to me about going to work there. What do you think? And I said, what do I think? Run, don't walk. And he's now there.
Yeah, I heard that.
He was in the room. I closed the door. I said, it's Kravitz. What should I tell him?
Yeah.
What'd you tell him?
Yeah, go. What's the holdup? Why aren't you already there tomorrow?
I can't thank Bill enough for his vision, and Barry Fulmer, when they brought us down 2 years ago, everything that they said that they would do in terms of giving us the resources. We brought in more people in the news department. We've got a 5-man sports staff in town. We've expanded the building. We did a half-hour special from the PGA every day. It's a phenomenal place to work. He mentioned the very first meeting we had, we went upstairs in his office and talked about something called culture, and nothing could be more true than that. The culture at WDRB is everybody helps everybody, and everybody is trying to succeed and help the station. I just wanted to acknowledge Bill for that.
Yeah, thank you. You guys are going to have to stop us for a second. I'm going to have to get this. This is just taking a real quick picture here. This little force right here has changed journalism more than anything else. We now have more people, I think, read us on a phone or some other mobile device than read us on the web, obviously, than read us, we're not in the paper anymore. It's pretty amazing and pretty revolutionary. They not only read us on this, but the news breaks on this. People report the news themselves on this through what they tweet at any moment's notice. Somebody can put something out on this, and it can be a news story in 2 hours, depending on how it's treated and what it is. It's really, it's revolutionized our lives, and we're still kind of trying to keep up with it, and hopefully we feel like we're doing a good job with it. We have a webcast every Wednesday at 10:30 on our website that you can watch on your phone, and all of these different things. So it's been, it feels like you're never standing still in this business, and it certainly feels that way at WDRB because there's been continuing to add people. We continue to see familiar faces that we used to work with coming in to the TV station and adding a layer of depth to the reporting there. So in addition to the people who are already there who do a great job. So it's been a lot of fun.
I know what you're doing there. You're about 1,300 followers behind me
That's
on
right.
Twitter, and you're trying to catch up by tweeting stuff out from here.
At Eric Crawford.
Well,
Follow that.
yeah,
This
see,
is
that's
an
what he's
important
doing.
thing. I mean, it's kind of.
He's closed the gap by about 300 in the last couple months.
See,
I'm getting a little nervous.
I don't think he notices these things, and then he comes up with a stat like that. So.
Yeah, no, I've noticed. We're going to get, the main thing
talk
we're here
some
to talk
sports?
about is
Yeah.
some football. And now that you mentioned it, last
Go
year, I did look it up. U of L, Eric Crawford said 12-0. I said 11-1. How'd it turn out?
I only missed by one. Sometimes, and I say this a lot at Derby time, sometimes it's not the pick that's wrong, the wrong horse wins. that happens a lot. That's what I'm standing behind in football season. What else?
All right, what do you got this year? Because I'm going to write it down again when we're back next year.
In going through these numbers you have, I'm guessing I should dial back every pick I have by one win. So I may be going 8-4 with Louisville instead of 9-3. That was my gut.
Is that what you got?
So I may go 8-4.
I'm going 8-4 too. We can't have a tie. That's
Well,
boring. You go 9-3 then.
I'll go 9-3, and I'll make a joke about it at the Rotary next year. So have it back.
We had a little debate yesterday. What was our debate about? What's the most important game on Louisville's schedule?
I thought you said who was the best team.
I thought it was the most important game on the
All right.
schedule.
Does anybody have a tape? Anyway,
All right,
Florida
we'll
State.
change it
I
now.
think
What's the
Florida-
most important
The
game?
most important game, I'll stay with what I said. Florida State, win, lose, that's the best team on the schedule. They're defending national champions. They are feeling it. Jameis Winston is a returning Heisman candidate. I sat with him with a group of reporters for an hour at ACC Media Days in Greensboro, North Carolina, and he's personality plus. He's calm. He's relaxed. They think they're going to win another national championship. They want to be the first team to win a championship in the college football playoff. They're going to be hard to handle, but it's a great opportunity for Louisville with them coming in here on a Thursday night. Maybe the biggest game played in that stadium.
That's a great pick. Pat Forty agrees with you. He had it on his list of the 25 most intriguing games of the entire season, but you're both wrong. The most important game of the season for Louisville is the first game against Miami, and I'll tell you why. Louisville beat Miami last year pretty decisively, 36-9 in the Russell Athletic Bowl. Miami was without its top running back, Duke Johnson, in that game. He might be the best running back in the ACC. Miami is obviously playing for revenge, and it's a game that sets a tone for the whole season. I think, when Louisville plays Florida State, they won't be favored to win that game. They are favored to win against Miami, but only by 3.5 to 4 points, which is surprising. They just beat them by 27. What does Vegas know that the rest of us don't know? I think Miami is the most important game to set the tone for the season. You've got to win that first game in the ACC, first game on Labor Day, the only game in the country being shown that night. Everybody in the country is going to be watching for Bobby Petrino's first impression. It kind of changes the whole dialogue from, is he talking to Todd Grantham or is he not talking to Todd Grantham?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, I can assure you he's talking to Todd Grantham. It may not be pleasant words that he's saying these days. They go against each other in practice every day, and it doesn't look like they're holding much back. So I think the concerns that are coming from Vegas on U of L, everybody around here saw the spring game and the numbers they put up, and Will Gardner at quarterback, and he's great. He's almost as good as Teddy. And the thing is that they really weren't playing real defense against him, and they weren't mixing things up. And when they've gotten into practice this fall, he's seen a lot more disguised blitzes and different kinds of coverages. It's taken him a while to catch on to that. He's had some bad days in camp, although he's getting better. You've seen him move a freshman, Reggie Bonifant, in to kind of work out. So, I think the whole change aspect of U of L is it. And I agree, one game at a time, just keep on that train and keep making your picks that way. It'll be good. But I will say, every coach tells us one game at a time.
That's true.
You're not allowed to play two at a time. You can only play one game at a time. That's all you can do. I don't know.
We were both out there Saturday for the scrimmage and actually went down on the field for the last, half an hour?
Yeah.
It was an interesting contrast to me for the difference of the way Petrino coaches and Grantham coaches. Petrino, in the middle of the scrimmage, is right behind the huddle, right behind the quarterbacks, watching to see what the quarterback sees if he's seeing what he's focusing on, what he's supposed to be focusing on, making notes in his mind about what reads he likes, what passes the guy Gardner threw and Bonifant threw that he liked. Grantham is on the sideline, running up and down like his pants are on fire, raging at the officials. In the last minute of the scrimmage, Jake Smith's helmet comes off. U of L's running a 2-minute drill trying to get in position to kick a field goal to win the scrimmage. It was obviously something they wanted to practice for a game situation. Jake Smith's helmet comes off. The refs don't notice that it happens, and they have to take 10 seconds off the clock because it's an automatic, not a penalty, but an automatic situation dictated by the rules. He went nuts on this official. How many times did he yell, "That's a 10-second blankety-blank runoff"?
Many times, more than 10. It was quite a
So
demonstration.
they're different styles of guys. And when the story came out this week, and Sports Illustrated did a big profile on Bobby Petrino last week, which was mixed. It had some Jake Plummer and Eric Wood and some guys stepped up and said some positive things about Petrino. Other people said some things that weren't so flattering, which isn't surprising as you look at the career record of Bobby Petrino. What was curious, though, was what happened this week. A second story came out, and it was buried about, I counted them, 46 paragraphs down into the second story about how he and Todd Grantham weren't getting along, according to one anonymous source. And I just found that curious, that if that was the one thing of all the stuff they've written about Bobby Petrino that has drawn the most conversation, why did they play it the way they played it?
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like that they have, and this is going to happen with Louisville. Bobby has his past, and he's in a higher profile situation now. We didn't hear a lot of this stuff last year when he was coach at Western Kentucky, but you're starting to hear it now that Louisville's into the ACC and they're getting ready to play a high profile game. I think a lot more people are going to come after him and take another look. And honestly, there may well be stuff there to look at. I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't feuding with his defensive coordinator or at each other. These coaches don't always get along in life. Under Bobby Petrino is not easy if you ask any of his assistants, but it's not easy under any coach. I mean, if you ask Patino's assistants what it's like, if you ever see one, ask him how many times he's been fired. That'll tell you right there, because they're all gone. I mean, if you just watch him on the bench during the course of a game, I mean, one guy they don't expect to make a three-pointer makes one. He's like, "You need a pack when you get back to the office. We're going another day." He said, "You can finish the year. We're going a different direction." Every game. So that's just how it works. Those guys have no job security at all.
Well, actually, what happens, usually there's a guy that's like a 12% three-point shooter, and so they tell everybody in the team when he gets the ball, don't guard him, and then the guy gets lucky and has a hot night and throws in 2 fluke miracle threes in a row, and Patino will turn and go, "I thought you told me he couldn't shoot."
Yeah.
And I was like, he can't shoot, he's just getting lucky.
Their stats are so sophisticated now. They were at DePaul once. The gym was almost empty, and this guy's up shooting free throws, and it's like yelling during a golfer's backswing or something, but the guy's ready to shoot. And Patino out of nowhere yells, 35% he misses to the left. The guy flings it off, and it comes off, but I just thought he was yelling, making that stuff up. They actually know on these free throws how often they miss left and right. They really do have the stats. So he is being obnoxious, but he's not only being obnoxious. We'll do that.
That's called basketball analytics,
Yeah,
which works until it doesn't work.
We need to talk some Kentucky football.
Yes, we do.
Because they are having a football season, even though basketball has already started, and we should talk a little UK basketball too, since that's going. But
You want to know how we did last year?
how did we do last year on UK?
Yeah, we both said 4-8. They were 2-10. So we were a little. People say we don't like UK. There you go. Just tell them we picked them to go 4-8. They went 2-10. They didn't do their end of the bargain.
Well, I guess. I mean, we were.
What do you got this year? I got 4-8 again.
Yeah, I've had trouble with them. That Vanderbilt game early in the season is the key game. You think they're going to win it.
Yes,
I
I
think
do.
they're not going to win it. And if they don't win that, I don't know where the wins come from. The good thing about them is, if you look at their schedule, they have a chance to open with 2 wins. They do have a chance to beat Vanderbilt at home. They could be 3-1. And if they get off to that start, I think they could win 5 games and be really interesting at the end of the season, with Tennessee and Louisville at the end of the season. But I don't think they're going to beat Vanderbilt. I think they get to 4, but I don't think they get farther than that.
They're going to beat Vanderbilt, so you guys can write that one down and email one of us or the other after it's over who got it right. They're going to start out with 2 wins, Tennessee Martin and Ohio University. Then they go to Florida. Although Florida was 4-8 last year, does anybody remember the last time Kentucky beat Florida? Yeah, I didn't think so.
You
It was
probably, right?
It was. I think it was 79. It was I think Chris Collinsworth was on the team.
Yeah.
Then they have an off week. Then they play Vanderbilt. The game has always been in November. Now it's been moved to September. It's in Commonwealth Stadium. Kentucky plays it after an off week. Kentucky has 18 starters back. Vanderbilt has 10 starters back. Doesn't have its quarterback back. Only has 31% of its offensive productivity. Kentucky wins that game.
Well, that's a huge game for them if they can win that game.
It is the game of the year for them.
You do look at what the margins have been the last couple of years. It's not like they've almost been able to beat Vanderbilt.
But Vandy also has a new coach.
There's a lot of change at Vanderbilt, so this could be the year. I mean, if Kentucky were just a little further along, this would be a great year to beat Florida. This would be, you say Vanderbilt's handleable. And the thing I like about Kentucky's schedule is, after the really tough games, if you look at it, then comes a game where they should be able to compete or win and regroup. They don't have these long stretches with Florida, Auburn, and things like that. So they should be able to gather themselves during the course of the season. With a young team, that always helps. So we'll see if they can do that. Patrick Towles is the quarterback. Is that the right move?
Yeah, I think it is. It was a little bit curious since he didn't play at all last year, and there were so many rumors that they didn't like him, that he was going to leave, that Drew Barker was going to step in and be the guy. But I give Towles credit. He didn't leave, which is what so many guys do these days, where there were 600 transfers in college basketball last year. He went and got a private quarterback coach and improved some of his technique. He decided he was going to try and win the job in the spring. He did it. He came back in the fall and cemented it. You go back and look at his stats at Fort Thomas Highlands, which is one of the better programs in the country. His passing stats are good. His running stats are actually pretty good. He ran for, I think, over 30 touchdowns in his career as a high school quarterback. And obviously, with the pedigree he has of Jim Bunning being his grandfather, I think he's a competitive kid. The toughest thing about it is, as we all know, at programs that aren't successful, the backup quarterback is always the most popular guy in the team. And so if Kentucky loses some games, you're going to hear the drum beat for Drew Barker, get him in and play. But I think to start the season, you're better off going with a guy who's been through college football for 2 years. I like Patrick Towles.
Yeah, I do too. I thought that was the right move. It gets you a chance to win those crucial early games to kind of build the momentum that you want to build for both of these teams, for Louisville and Kentucky. The health of the quarterback is a huge issue. Will Gardner has a history of injury. He missed his senior year of high school with injury. He really hasn't played for 3 years when you get right down to it. So you start to look at concerns about them. And then, if something happens with Towles, Drew Barker is going to have to come in and play. He may not play full time. They have another Reese Phillips who can play, but Drew Barker is going to have to be in the mix. And against the schedules that those teams are playing now, it's tough to keep yourself from getting dinged up. They're playing a lot Louisville's in a lot deeper pool now than they were talent-wise, especially defensively, and Kentucky, of course, in the SEC is tough. So health is always big. I mean, as excited as Louisville's fans are for their season and as much hope as Kentucky's fans have, those two guys are crucial to keep them healthy and on 2 feet.
Yeah, and the dynamic of the rivalry really changes this year because it's always been either the first game or the third game. Now it's the last game, which I think plays to Kentucky's advantage because they're a younger team. By the time they get to the last weekend of the season, the young guys will have more experience. And if you look at how the schedule sets up, that also favors Kentucky. In that Louisville is at Notre Dame the Saturday before they come home and play Kentucky. Kentucky plays at Tennessee and then has an off week. I don't think Kentucky is at the point yet where they can come in here and win, but I think the game sets up more in Kentucky's advantage this year because of the schedule.
Yeah, it could be a bowl game for Kentucky. I mean, not even if it's not in the balance, you win that game at the end and people have a whole different recollection of your season. So that's going to be a challenge for Louisville.
And what about some basketball? You guys want to talk some basketball?
We can do that, and we'll get some questions too. If you have them, we can take them at any time. But you know, we've seen Kentucky now in basketball, and I watched all those games in the Bahamas. I thought they looked great. They lost their last game there. I don't even think that was a concern, particularly for me. I just think they passed the ball well. They have multiple options at every position. They don't have any – I mean, they can have guys get hurt at any position and it not really matter. You're just bringing in another guy who's probably going to play in the NBA behind him. So I don't agree with your assessment that they're going to go 60-0, but I think they're going to be pretty good.
I thought I said 70-0.
70-0, that might be it.
Yeah.
Every week he ups it.
The thing that I like about this season is last year, Florida was a really good team. They were ranked number 1 all year. They didn't have one first-round draft pick on the whole team. I think it kind of said about what kind of year it was in college basketball. This year is going to be dramatically different. You've got Kentucky, which has most of its star players back, plus a great recruiting class, 9 McDonald's All-Americans. Duke has 9 McDonald's All-Americans. North Carolina has 8 McDonald's All-Americans, including maybe the best point guard in the country. Arizona's going to be really good. Louisville's going to be good. Louisville's going into a league where they're going to be probably 4 top 10 or top 12 teams in the ACC with Duke, Carolina, Louisville, and Virginia. I think it's going to be a phenomenal year for college basketball, the best in a number of years.
Yeah, I do too. The only question I have about Kentucky is they're going to play a tough schedule early, and then they're going to get into the Southeastern Conference where they're not going to face a lot of big tests for 2 months. And you go into the NCAA tournament after rolling over people, you don't know how that's going to be. But, you know, I think we said the same thing last year, and it didn't turn out to be the case. So we just have to watch. It's not always the team with the most marquee players. I mean, we saw that in the NBA Finals this year. The San Antonio Spurs moved the ball. They played as a team, and, you know, it didn't matter if the other team had LeBron James or Bill Russell. It just didn't matter. They were the best team out there. So that has kind of changed the way people look at things a little bit with basketball, and it'll be interesting to see who can put together the best group this year.
And the margin between, oh, what a great year it was, and boy, wasn't that a disappointment, is about this big. If you go back into March, how many people were grumbling about the Harrison twins? And now let's be honest. Nobody?
Yeah, I mean.
There's one, yeah. Kentucky gets hot in the NCAA tournament, wins a 1-possession game against Wichita State, wins a 1-possession game against Louisville, wins a 1-possession game against Michigan, wins a 1-possession game against Wisconsin. All of a sudden, everything's great again. If they lose to Wichita State, I think the vibe's a lot different. So, you know, I think they're going to be preseason number 1. I think they're going to be the team to beat. But Duke, Carolina, a few other teams are going to be pretty strong too.
You know, and looking at it from Louisville's perspective, I mean, they were 1 loss. I mean, that if they win that game against Kentucky, if they protect a 7-point lead with whatever they had left,
less than 4 minutes.
Yeah, less than 4 minutes. They're probably coming off another Final Four year. I mean, who knows? And when you get there, you roll the dice. But they met the one team they couldn't handle, and I think they knew that going in. They took their shot. They just couldn't preserve it at the end. But they've got a very good team back. Terry Rozier is starting to be projected in some mock drafts as a top 10 pick. Montrezl Harrell is a big-time player. They don't have the depth of some of these others, but they're going to be very good. They're very excited. They're still waiting to hear on one freshman big man, a 6'9", Jalen Johnson, who they haven't heard from academically yet, and I think they're still waiting today. Classes start Monday, so they'd like to get that piece in there because he could help them this year. Yeah,
I was just checking my phone. I remember now that when the NCAA tournament draw came out, Rick Pitino wasn't going to talk, so I texted him if he had a comment on the draw, and I just checked the text, and he did say I'm too pissed to talk. He didn't like the draw when he saw who they were playing against.
Yeah.
And he knew Kentucky was sitting there 2 games ahead. He didn't want to have to play them again.
They didn't want to play Wichita either, I don't think. But
No, they didn't.
Kentucky, particularly with its size, posed a problem. But should we take some questions?
Yes,
We're
sir.
getting toward the end here. We don't have maybe a lot of time.
Wow. I don't think that's going to happen because of the fact they're already playing 8 ACC teams plus Kentucky. That's 9. I don't think they'll add a 10th one. I'm not really sure Charlie Strong wants to come back here and play. What do you think, Eric?
No, I don't think so. The last time Texas came here, it didn't work out too well for them. I think that was
No, Bevo hyperventilated. I remember that game.
That wasn't good. So I don't know. I think Charlie's got all he can handle without scheduling his former school right now. It's a little dicey in Austin for him.
Here comes Ken. I think this might be an IU football question.
What do you think of IU football? I do have another
I got
question.
something for you.
I do have another question. The U of L and Coach Petrino, I wonder how you feel the players are reacting to the coaching change, and are they buying in, and do they love this, or how's it different with Coach Petrino versus Coach Strong?
Here's your IU football thing. You can share it in a group or something. It's kind of an interesting nugget. Makes it interesting. How many of you ever watched Young and the Restless or Bold and the Beautiful? But whatever is said in here won't go any farther, so if you've watched it, I won't tell anybody. But Brad Carlton, the guy who played Brad Carlton in Young and the Restless, and Bill Spencer in The Bold and the Beautiful, is the father of Alexander Diamant, IU's backup quarterback. So that's what I got for you on IU football.
I bet you didn't think.
Now, I've got them going 6-6 this year. I said 6-6. They can always get to 5. This one college football website that I follow, College Football Matrix, has got them to 5.5. 5's hard. It's always the 6 that's the hard one. And they got, even Fred Glass said, who makes the schedule around here? He's the athletic director. It's like he does. They play the first game against Indiana State, then they play Bowling Green on the road. Now, why would you want to go play the best team in the MAC on the road and then Missouri on the road? That's not the way to get to a bowl game. So I'll say 6 just because I think their offense is pretty good, but 5's probably more likely.
I bet you didn't think you'd hear him talking about the Young and the Restless up here or anything like that. It's kind of, we did the fair yesterday. It was WDRB day at the fair, and people come up and talk to you, and some woman came up and said, "You all look younger and thinner than you do on television." I'm like, I guess that's good. I don't know. It's half good. It just depends on how old and fat we look when we are on television. That's the problem. That's not good. But as far as the players at Louisville, I mean, the day Charlie Strong left was a very emotional day for Louisville's football team, and they were in that meeting. They met with their athletic director, and they were angry. There were some hurt feelings over Charlie leaving. The affection that those players had for him and his staff was pretty profound. In fact, I talked to Lorenzo Molden not long ago, and he said the coach that he still calls if he's got a problem or needs something is a coach that's no longer here, Clint Hurt, who's the assistant coach, and a lot of guys feel that about him, and that's one reason Louisville hung on to him the way they did, despite some rules and NCAA problems he had, is that he meant so much to a lot of these guys, and Lorenzo's a guy who lived his whole life homeless in a series of a dozen foster homes and got to school here. So for a lot of those guys to lose their coach, that was a big deal, and I thought at that time, even if Bobby came in, it was going to be tough for the next coach, whoever it is, and it's not. It's just different under Bobby. It's not that it's not good. They've embraced it, and there's a lot of there's a lot of pride going on that they don't want to stumble after Charlie left. They want to be seen as guys who held the program up, and that they were the guys on the field doing the work. And there's a lot of that feeling among players, but it's very different, and there's no getting away from that. And even Bobby has said that that's the thing he worries about the most. He just wants guys to embrace the change, to see where their opportunities are and to take it. And that's one big question that the season's going to answer.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the players saw Charlie Strong really not only as their coach, but sort of as a father figure, and they really looked up to him. They respected him. They didn't want to disappoint him. And the way it usually handles with coaching changes is that we don't really know until the end of the season. If Louisville has a great year, everything will be fine. If they lose a few games and it's a little bit of a disappointment, you'll probably hear some players saying they missed Coach Strong or they didn't adjust well to the coaching staff. So winning usually dictates a lot of how that turns out. But just from my own view is, from just watching coaches and in this area in all sports for a number of years, the feelings they had for Charlie Strong from the guys that actually played for him. And last year's guys are actually guys who only played for Strong, weren't recruited for Cragthorpe. Those guys way up here in terms of what they thought of Charlie Strong as a person.
The offensive players are excited. They feel like they're going to put up
That's true.
a lot better numbers. I know Devontae Parker said our old staff like to tap the brakes sometimes. That was his quote.
Did you talk about the football playoffs, the 4 teams going to be in, and then the winner?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, the 14,
playoff-
okay, I'll give you my 4. You ready?
Go ahead.
Florida State, Alabama, Oklahoma, and I'll go with a dark horse. I'll go with UCLA. I think Ohio State losing their quarterback this week probably knocks them out of it, and I'm not sure if another Big Ten team, which would be Michigan State, can climb up there. They might be able to. I think they play Oregon the second week of the season at Oregon. If they win that game, that's a huge strength of schedule game. So Michigan State would be my dark horse.
Yeah, this playoff is going to change things dramatically. It's not even, we're used to bowls, and they still will. There's still 30-some bowl games stretching out all through December. But as it stands right now, there's only 2 days of bowls that really matter. All of the BCS bowls, as we've come to know them, the big bowls, and the 2 national semifinals, there's 3 of them on New Year's Eve and 3 on New Year's Day. That's when the big games are going to happen in a 2-day stretch. And then, of course, the national championship game is a week later, and that's going to be, something like we've not seen before. So it changes everything, even the polls, even the preseason polls that we just saw in the AP and the coaches. There's a selection committee for the playoff, and they start putting out their own poll in October, and it comes out every Tuesday night, and that's the only poll that matters. The teams 1 through 4 in that are going to be the 4 in the playoff at the end. So that's, these other polls that everybody's voting in are great, but they're not a factor in this. So that committee is set. It's all put together. They're ready. They're going to meet in person in Dallas every Monday and Tuesday, which is a big commitment of their time. So it's going to be fun to see the fundamental change in college football this season. And I think that some of these other smaller bowls that we're used to are going to kind of go by the wayside over the years as everybody starts to focus on that big New Year's weekend or New Year's, celebration in college football. And as the playoff expands, I think it'll go to 8 teams. You'll see another week before that and even more bowls. I think will kind of fall away.
Ed.
With regard to my favorite sport, who do you think will win the World Series?
Whoa. Okay.
And what do you see the future of the Cincinnati Reds
Oh, my
over
God.
the next couple of years?
I thought we were supposed to finish at 1 o'clock.
Thought we wanted to finish on a high note. He's asking about the Reds.
I'm going to go with the Baltimore Orioles to win the World Series. I think they're playing really well. They're dominating the AL East. And the Cincinnati Reds,
Oh, my gosh.
they're in that bad zone in baseball right now where they've given out a bunch of long-term contracts, and some guys have disappointed them. Joey Votto, Homer Bailey, some of the rest of them, and I don't know how you dig out of that kind of hole because you got some other young players coming up who are going to want to get paid.
Yeah, you're
He's
right.
a Reds fan more than I am.
They've lost 5 in a row, I think, and it's they're in that spiral.
Over.
I think 10 out of 12, and it's tough. I don't know how if you unload some of those guys or what. I can't. I mean, I feel like a lot of these Votto, I feel like still a good player. I mean, a lot of these guys, I still have some belief in, but what the team has done and what's happened this year is pretty disappointing, and it's not the first disappointing year lately.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone, and join me in thanking Rick Bosich and Eric Crawford from WDRB.